Today we're going to look at your face. Yes, this very one staring back at you in the mirror. And we're going to ask a question that might sound strange at first. Can your face actually tell us something about what's happening inside your body? Now, this isn't about horoscopes or magical thinking. This is about observation, patterns, and the subtle ways our bodies express themselves. Some traditional systems, like Chinese medicine, have long suggested that your face is like a map of your organs. Red cheeks could point to the lungs, a dull forehead to the digestive system, or puffiness around the eyes to the kidneys. At first, it sounds mysterious, almost poetic. But let's try to see it through the lens of science, where curiosity is the compass and evidence is the map. Think of your body as a bustling city. The organs are factories, power plants, water systems, and transportation hubs, all working together in constant motion. Your face in this analogy is the surface of the city, the streets, parks, rooftops, and the occasional smoke puff rising from a chimney. When one factory in the city has a problem, when there's a disruption or stress in one system, it sometimes shows up on the streets in subtle ways. A traffic jam might signal that the power plant is overloaded. A stray cloud of smoke might hint at a malfunction in the industrial sector. Similarly, changes in your internal organs, stress, inflammation, hormonal fluctuations, or nutrient deficiencies can manifest subtly on your skin, around your eyes, or in the color and texture of your face. We can even imagine this as a thought experiment. Picture a gardener who can only look at the flowers, not the roots. Some flowers are wilting, some are losing color, some are unusually bright. Can the gardener make guesses about the soil, water, and sunlight beneath the surface? In the same way, observing the face can give us clues about what's happening internally, but the signals are faint, inconsistent, and easily confused. The challenge comes from complexity. The human body is not a simple machine with neatly labeled parts. It's more like an intricate ecosystem, where one change cascades through multiple systems. One organ can influence many others, and one visible symptom can have multiple overlapping causes. Puffy eyelids might indicate kidney stress, but they could also result from allergies, lack of sleep, or even crying the night before. The map exists, but it is not straightforward and it is never static. It is dynamic, constantly rewritten by metabolism, hormones, circulation, and countless environmental factors. Yet even in this uncertainty, there is something profound. The face, in its subtlety, is a record of your body's state, a conversation between what is visible and what is hidden. Observing it carefully without jumping to conclusions allows us to become more attuned to ourselves. It teaches us to notice patterns, to wonder, and to appreciate the immense complexity contained in something as ordinary as a glance in the mirror. The first step in understanding this map is not to decode it fully, but to acknowledge that it exists. It is not a crystal clear chart with coordinates and labels, but it is real, tangible, and worth exploring with curiosity and rigor. Imagine, for a moment, that you are a detective tasked with solving a mystery. But here's the catch. The crime scene is hidden underground, and all you can see are faint clues on the surface. Perhaps a trail of disturbed soil, a drooping flower, or a patch of discolored leaves. Could you, using only these surface hints, figure out what is happening below? This is essentially what facial mapping attempts. Your face becomes the surface evidence and your organs are the hidden activity beneath. Working quietly, often invisibly, but leaving subtle traces, consider a simple thought experiment. Picture a pond in a forest. You can see the ripples on the water, the occasional fallen leaf, and the color of the reflection. You cannot see the fish, the mud at the bottom, or the insects skimming the surface beneath. If the ripples are unusually strong, you might guess that something beneath, maybe a fish, maybe a sudden wind, has caused them. If the water turns murky, you might suspect movement or disturbance under the surface. In the same way, changes in your internal organs, like stress, inflammation, or hormonal shifts, can subtly alter the ripples of your face. A flush in the cheeks, puffiness under the eyes, or a dulling of skin tone. These are not direct readings, but indirect hints. Signals sent from the hidden interior of the body to the visible exterior. Now imagine trying to map every single factory in a city, just by observing the smoke rising from chimneys. Some factories might produce similar smoke even if they are doing very different work. Others might produce no smoke at all until there is a major problem. Similarly, your face might respond to different internal changes in similar ways, or sometimes not respond at all. This is why facial mapping is so difficult to standardize scientifically. There are too many variables: genetics, age, diet, lifestyle, sleep patterns, and environmental conditions. Two people with the same internal issue might look completely different on the surface, while two people with very different conditions might appear alarmingly similar. Yet the fascination lies in the possibility. If the subtle signals could be reliably decoded, your face could act as a continuous, non-invasive monitor of your internal state. Every expression, every change in color, every line or shadow could be a clue, a whisper of what is happening deep within. It is a puzzle that is never fully solved, but that does not make the puzzle meaningless. On the contrary, it emphasizes the elegance and complexity of the human body. The signals are noisy, inconsistent, and overlapping, but they are real. They invite observation, curiosity, and careful study rather than quick judgment. This is where the analogy to science becomes powerful. In physics, we often study phenomena that are invisible or only partially observable. Subatomic particles, distant stars, or the curvature of space-time. We do not despair because we cannot see everything directly. Instead, we measure effects, look for patterns, and use indirect evidence to construct models. Observing the face is similar. We do not see the organs directly, but we see traces of their activity on a visible canvas. With patience, attention, and careful reasoning, we can start to understand the relationship between what we observe and what is happening underneath. The key lesson is humility. The signals are subtle and often ambiguous, reminding us that the human body is a profoundly complex system. It resists simple categorization or rigid rules. Yet even in this complexity, there is beauty. Every change, every nuance of the face is a small window into the intricate, dynamic, and astonishing network of systems that sustain life. The face is not a perfect map, but it is a living testament to the hidden activity beneath, a whisper of the extraordinary machinery inside each of us. So what do we actually know about the face and its connection to what's happening inside the body? Unlike the poetic or traditional maps that claim to tell you exactly which organ is out of balance, science is more cautious. But there are real, observable links between internal physiology and the features of our face. One of the most obvious examples is jaundice. When the liver is not functioning properly, bilirubin, a yellow pigment created when red blood cells are broken down, builds up in the body. It stains the skin and the whites of the eyes a noticeable yellow. Here, the face is literally broadcasting a biochemical signal from deep inside. The mechanism is clear, the evidence is measurable, and it is reproducible. You don't need centuries of tradition to see it. Any physician can recognize it immediately. This is the simplest, most undeniable case of the face reflecting internal states. Hormones also leave their marks. Stress hormones, for example, influence many aspects of skin health. Cortisol can increase oil production, making skin more prone to acne, or alter the way the body distributes fluid, causing puffiness around the eyes. Reproductive hormones affect skin elasticity and color, subtly changing the way our cheeks or lips appear. These changes are not immediate and are often small, but over time they become noticeable patterns. This is why, when someone is chronically stressed, it is sometimes possible to detect it, not by any mystical means, but by observing changes in skin texture, tone, or the presence of minor swelling. Circulation and inflammation also leave traces. Poor blood flow can make the skin paler, particularly around the lips and fingertips, while inflammation can cause redness, heat, or swelling in localized areas. Even the small veins under the eyes, which often become visible when tired, swollen, or dehydrated, are tied directly to circulation and fluid balance in the body. Subtle color changes, shadows, and puffiness are all signals, tiny pulses of information sent from deep systems to the surface. Yet even with these observable connections, the signals are often subtle and context-dependent. Puffy eyelids might indicate kidney stress, but they could just as easily be caused by sleeping poorly, crying, or eating salty foods. A flushed face might signal an inflammatory response in the body, but it could also result from embarrassment, exercise, or a hot room. The challenge is separating the signal from the noise. The body does not broadcast a clean, unambiguous message on the skin. The face is influenced by countless internal and external factors simultaneously, making the task of interpretation incredibly complex. Despite this complexity, the underlying principle is clear. The face does carry information about the body. It is not a perfect map, but it is a canvas on which the body paints clues. These clues are small, often overlapping, and sometimes contradictory, but they are real. Learning to interpret them requires patience, careful observation, and an understanding of physiology. Scientists continue to study correlations between facial appearance and health indicators, using everything from digital imaging to biometric analysis, but the results are always probabilistic rather than deterministic. The face can hint, suggest, and sometimes even warn, but it rarely provides absolute certainty. In this way, the face is both revealing and deceptive. It can show signs of internal changes, yet it can also mislead. What it teaches us is a lesson in careful observation and humility. Even when evidence exists, interpretation is challenging. The face is not a crystal-clear window into the body. It is a subtle, shifting display, a series of soft signals from the hidden world inside us, waiting to be read with curiosity, care, and respect. Even though we have some clear examples of the face reflecting internal states, there is far more that we don't know. Science is cautious because the human body is staggeringly complex, and the signals the face sends are subtle, ambiguous, and highly individual. One of the biggest mysteries is why the same internal condition can manifest so differently from person to person. Puffy eyes, for instance, may indicate kidney issues in one person but appear after a poor night's sleep in another. Red cheeks may signal inflammation in one body, while simply reflecting sunlight in another. Genetics, lifestyle, age, environmental factors, and even emotional states all influence the face, creating a tangled web that is difficult to untangle. Part of the challenge lies in the sheer number of variables interacting simultaneously. Each organ communicates with others in ways that are only partially understood. The liver, the kidneys, the heart, and the lungs are not isolated units. They function in a network of feedback loops. A change in one system can ripple through the body, sometimes amplifying signals and sometimes masking them entirely. If we imagine the body as a city, it is not enough to observe one street or one building. The entire infrastructure is connected, and a minor disruption in one area can produce effects in unexpected places. The face, as the city's surface, reflects these ripples, but not in a linear or predictable way. Another complicating factor is timing. Some internal changes take weeks or months to show any visible effect, while others appear almost instantly. Nutritional deficiencies may subtly alter skin texture over months, hormonal fluctuations can shift the appearance of the face over days, and dehydration can change the skin in hours. Observing the face at a single moment may reveal little, while patterns over time provide richer, more reliable information. This adds a temporal dimension to the puzzle. The map is constantly changing, not static, and reading it requires patience, attention, and context. The noise in the system also challenges our ability to interpret signals. Lifestyle factors like sleep, stress, diet, and exposure to sunlight, as well as environmental factors like pollution or humidity, all affect the face. Even emotional states leave traces. Worry can crease the forehead, laughter can produce lines around the eyes, and fatigue can shadow the under-eye area. These influences are real, measurable, and constantly changing, yet they can mimic or obscure signals from internal organ function. The face is broadcasting information, but it is not always the information we are seeking. Decoding it requires an understanding of the underlying biology, along with careful observation and repeated measurements over time. This is why facial mapping has proven so difficult to validate scientifically. Controlled studies are challenging because so many factors are involved, and human variability is enormous. Signals that seem obvious in one person may not generalize to others. The patterns exist, but they are probabilistic, not deterministic. We can say a flushed cheek might indicate inflammation, but we cannot say it will always indicate inflammation. This uncertainty can be frustrating, but it is also a profound lesson in humility. Nature rarely provides simple answers, and the body in all its complexity resists easy categorization. Ultimately, what we don't know is larger than what we do know, and this is precisely what makes the study of the face so fascinating. It reminds us that human biology is not a set of neat diagrams or clear signals. It is a dynamic, interconnected system. Each face is a living experiment, a canvas where countless factors converge to produce subtle, shifting patterns. The gaps in our knowledge are not failures. They are invitations to observe more carefully, think more deeply, and embrace the beautiful complexity of the human body. Even with all the clues that a face might offer, humans struggle to interpret them reliably. One reason is that our brains are wired to see patterns everywhere, even when none exist. We are natural pattern seekers, a trait that has helped us survive for millions of years. Spotting subtle changes in our environment, like a predator hiding in the grass, was a matter of life and death. But the same instinct that allowed us to detect danger now tricks us into seeing connections where there may be none. We might notice a flushed cheek and immediately associate it with a specific internal condition, even though it could just be a reaction to warm weather or a bit of embarrassment. This tendency to impose meaning on ambiguous signals is called apophenia, and it affects every human observer. Another reason is that the signals themselves are often overlapping or contradictory. One visible change on the face can have multiple potential causes. Puffy eyelids could indicate kidney stress, but they could also result from crying, allergies, poor sleep, or even a high-salt meal. Redness in the cheeks could come from inflammation, high blood pressure, or simply physical exertion. Our instincts push us towards simple explanations, yet the reality is that the body is rarely simple. There are too many interacting systems, each sending subtle signals that converge on the face, creating a kind of noisy broadcast. Disentangling that noise requires careful observation, controlled experiments, and repeated measurements over time. Tools that our intuitive pattern-seeking brains are not naturally equipped to use. Humans also struggle because context matters so much. A flushed forehead in one individual might signal a temporary spike in blood pressure, while in another it could be completely normal. The same feature can convey entirely different information depending on age, sex, genetics, lifestyle, environment, and emotional state. This context dependency makes it nearly impossible to create a universal face-to-organ key. Nature does not offer a one-size-fits-all map, and yet our desire for certainty pushes us to look for exact rules. We want a simple answer, a clear chart with labels. When the body itself operates in shades of gray and probabilistic outcomes, psychological factors complicate things further. We tend to anthropomorphize biological signals, interpreting subtle changes on our faces as messages or intentions. A slight frown or dark circle becomes imbued with meaning beyond its biological reality. Our emotions, beliefs, and experiences overlay the biological signals with layers of interpretation, creating a mixture of truth and imagination. Even skilled physicians must constantly remind themselves to separate the observable facts from the stories their brains want to construct. Despite these challenges, the struggle itself is revealing. It teaches us that the body is not a machine with neatly labeled parts, but a dynamic, interconnected system that resists oversimplification. The difficulty of interpretation is a reflection of complexity, not a failure of observation. Every misread signal, every ambiguous clue, highlights the incredible subtlety of the body's internal communication. The face is not a simple window into the organs. It is a canvas painted by countless overlapping factors, some visible, some invisible, all interacting in a living network. Our struggle to read these signals underscores a larger truth about science. Observation alone is not enough. Curiosity, patience, critical thinking, and an awareness of the limits of our perception are required. We must learn to appreciate ambiguity and uncertainty, to recognize that not every signal is interpretable, and that even the clearest clues may be context-dependent. The human body is an orchestra, and the face is one of its instruments. It sings a song of complexity, subtlety, and interconnection, one that challenges us to listen carefully, think critically, and remain humble before the beauty of what we do not yet fully understand. When we step back and look at the face as a map, not in the mystical sense but in the scientific sense, something remarkable emerges. The face is simultaneously a window and a veil, both revealing and concealing, hinting at what is happening inside us while also masking vast complexity. Every subtle color change, every line, every puffiness is a signal trace of countless biological processes interacting in ways we are only beginning to understand. Yet for all its clues, the face never gives a complete answer. It reminds us that the natural world, including our own bodies, is profoundly intricate. It teaches a lesson that goes beyond anatomy or medicine. The reality we perceive is always a combination of signal and noise, seen and unseen, known and unknown. Looking at the face as a scientific map challenges the way we perceive reality itself. We tend to think of the world in binaries, healthy or sick, true or false, visible or hidden. But the truth is rarely so simple. Biological systems are networks, not machines. Processes are probabilistic, not deterministic. The face illustrates this beautifully because it is a place where multiple systems intersect. Circulation, hormones, cellular repair, inflammation, and countless other processes converge to produce an observable pattern. But that pattern can be subtle, ambiguous, or fleeting. It is a reminder that reality is not a static picture, but a dynamic symphony of interacting parts, many of which are invisible to us. There is also a profound humility embedded in this understanding. For centuries, humans have sought to decode their bodies, looking for simple rules and definitive signs. We want clear maps, precise instructions, and certainty. Yet the face teaches us that certainty is often an illusion. Nature does not simplify itself for our convenience. Instead, it communicates in hints, probabilities, and correlations, requiring careful observation, critical thinking, and patience. Each time we misinterpret a signal, we are confronted with the limits of our knowledge and the richness of the system we are studying. This is not discouraging, it is enlightening. It is a call to curiosity, a reminder that learning is an ongoing process, and that true understanding requires embracing complexity rather than denying it. The face also invites reflection on our interconnectedness. Each visible change is not isolated, it is the cumulative result of countless internal and external interactions. Our environment, behavior, and even thoughts influence these patterns, and yet the effects are filtered through the complex systems of the body. This interconnectedness mirrors larger truths about reality. Nothing exists in isolation, and every phenomenon is part of a network of causes and effects, many of which we cannot fully perceive. Observing the face becomes an exercise in noticing subtle interdependencies, in seeing how the hidden and visible worlds interact. Ultimately, the face is a reminder that reality is both knowable and mysterious. It is an invitation to pay attention, to think critically, and to observe carefully. It challenges us to recognize that our knowledge is partial, that some questions may never have simple answers, and that the act of inquiry itself is meaningful. The face is a living map, not of destinations but of processes, not of certainties, but of possibilities. When you look in the mirror next time, consider this. You are both a surface and a city, a signal and a mystery. The face is not just skin and features. It is a living record of your body's inner workings, a whisper of the hidden symphony of life. And in that whisper, there is something profoundly scientific, deeply philosophical, and endlessly fascinating. The recognition that reality is far richer and more intricate than our eyes can immediately perceive. The map exists, but it is written in a language that asks us to observe, wonder, and think. Even after all we've explored, the signals, the patterns, the complexity, and the ambiguity, there remains one final truth. The face is not merely a reflection of the body, but a mirror of life's complexity itself. Every feature, every subtle hue, every wrinkle is the result of processes that are simultaneously microscopic and immense, chemical and mechanical, immediate and historical. The blood vessels that subtly alter the color of your cheeks are themselves responding to hormonal signals, cellular activity, and environmental cues. The skin under your eyes, sensitive and delicate, is shaped by genetics, sleep cycles, and fluid balance. These small signals are, in essence, the echoes of countless events occurring inside your body, events that span seconds, hours, and even decades. Looking at your face is like peering into a living history of yourself, a dynamic record of the systems that sustain life. This realization changes the way we think about perception and observation. In physics, we are accustomed to studying systems that we cannot directly see, such as electrons or gravitational waves. We measure their effects and construct models, knowing that our observations are always partial and our understanding always approximate. Observing the face is an analogous process. We cannot directly see the liver working or the kidneys filtering. We cannot watch hormones circulate or cells repair damage. Yet the face transmits hints, probabilistic signals, subtle cues. Decoding them requires the same principles: careful observation, skepticism, pattern recognition, and a willingness to accept uncertainty. In other words, the study of the face is a microcosm of scientific inquiry itself. The complexity and ambiguity of these signals also teach us something profound about humility and perspective. We live in a culture that prizes certainty, that seeks absolute answers and quick diagnoses. Yet the face reminds us that life is rarely so simple. Biological systems are networks of interdependent parts, constantly interacting, constantly changing. What appears to be a single signal often reflects multiple causes. What seems like a clear pattern may dissolve under closer scrutiny. This is not a flaw, it is a feature. It is the natural consequence of living systems that are adaptive, resilient, and beautifully complex. The face is a reminder that the world, and the body, is richer than our first impressions suggest. There is also a poetic truth embedded in this science. Every time we observe our own faces, we are connecting the visible and the invisible, the immediate and the underlying. We are practicing curiosity, patience, and reflection. We are acknowledging that the body is not merely a machine to be understood, but a system to be observed with care, respected for its intricacy, and appreciated for its beauty. In this sense, the face becomes more than a map. It becomes a teacher, guiding us toward a deeper awareness of our own biology and the nature of complex systems. Ultimately, the face invites us to rethink reality itself. It challenges the assumption that what is visible is all there is, reminding us that much of the world exists beneath the surface, in interactions and processes we can only infer. It tells us that knowledge is provisional, that observation is a skill, and that the universe, whether within the human body or beyond, is a system of subtle signals waiting to be noticed and interpreted. The face is a living interface between the seen and the unseen, the known and the mysterious. By observing it carefully, we are not only learning about our bodies, but also practicing the art of understanding complexity, the same art that allows humans to explore the deepest truths of the natural world. When you look in the mirror, you are seeing more than a face. You are seeing a dynamic system, a living network, a map of processes that are invisible yet inseparably real. In that reflection lies a profound lesson. The universe communicates constantly, in ways that are subtle, beautiful, and complex. The map is always there, written in living code, and it rewards the observer who looks carefully, thinks critically, and embraces the mystery.